Hello there, you're watching Nightline. I'm Anita Wu. News making the headlines. Mavcom to be dissolved, absorbed by CAAM. And Parcel rent to replace quit rent for KL Strata developments. We begin with this story. Prime Minister Tun Dr M has expressed confidence that Malaysia will be an ideal destination for Qatari investors, especially to access the broader market in the ASEAN region. Speaking during the roundtable meeting with Qatari captains of industry on Thursday, Tun Dr welcomed more companies from Qatar to explore business opportunities in Malaysia, particularly in the sectors of oil and gas, chemical products, food processing, halal, hotel and tourism, Islamic banking and finance. The Prime Minister also believes that there are ample business opportunities that can be explored by Malaysian businesses in Qatar. Currently, he said Malaysian companies such as Gamuda, UEM, Eversendai, Holiday Villa and Malaysia Airports have a large footprint in Qatar. He noted that Malaysia remains on a steady economic path with a healthy average gross domestic product growth of 4.6% in the first 3 quarters of 2019. He added, with the strong economic fundamentals, Malaysia continues to attract foreign direct investments. Tun Dr pointed out that Malaysia strives to strike a balance by not only enhancing the ease of doing business in the country, but also ensuring the nation benefits in the long run. Meanwhile, Tun Dr was accorded an official welcoming ceremony at Amiri Diwan in conjunction with his 4-day official visit to Qatar on Thursday. Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, greeted Tun Dr upon arrival at Amiri Diwan at 11:15 a.m. local time before the national anthems of Malaysia and Qatar were played. The Prime Minister then inspected a guard of honour mounted by the Amiri Guards. The Amiri Diwan is the seat of rule of the state of Qatar. It is the sovereign body and the administrative office of the Emir of Qatar. This is Tun Dr Mahathir's first visit to Qatar after being appointed as Malaysia's 7th Prime Minister in May last year. After the welcoming ceremony, Tun Dr Mahathir had an audience and held a 4-eyed meeting with the Emir. Both leaders also witnessed the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, on the establishment of a high-level joint committee between the foreign ministers of both countries. The Transport Ministry has announced that the civil aviation of Malaysia will be regulated by only one entity after the rationalisation of its current regulators, the Malaysian Aviation Commission, Mavcom and the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia, CAM. Its Minister, Anthony Loke Siew Fook, said this was done to cut down on red tape with only one regulator operating.
So Cabinet just made a principal decision yesterday to merge the 2 entities into one. Mavcom will be absorbed and merged with CAM. We think that this is a consolidation exercise and to make our regulatory body more efficient and cut down red tapes and bureaucracy.
He also said the decision was made in a cabinet meeting on December 11th to empower CAM. Mavcom will be dissolved and its functions will be transferred to CAM with a committee set up to oversee the transition, which will take more than 6 months. Meanwhile, Mavcom has said that it was not consulted on the government's decision to merge it with CAM. Mavcom's executive chairman, Dr. Nungsari Ahmad Radhi, expressed disappointment with the decision, saying that it was made with seeming disdain and without consultation. Starting January, motorists will be pumping a higher grade of RON 95 fuel that meets the European Euro 4M, also known as the E4M standards, at petrol stations nationwide. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry Secretary-General Datuk Muiz Abdul Aziz said E4M, which is equivalent to RON 97, will replace the current E2 standards. Datuk Muiz said industry players are preparing to carry out the sale of the higher grade petrol, where works at the depot and gas stations levels are being done. Not many countries have the E4M standard petrol, and the United Kingdom and Australia were among the countries that have been using it. The ministry had been working with petroleum companies such as Shell, Petronas and Petron to roll out this initiative. Among the benefits of using E4M RON 95 is the reduction of impact on the environment through cleaner fuel burns that emit less smoke. The quit rent system for strata buildings in Kuala Lumpur will be replaced with a parcel rent system from January 1st next year. The switch to a new system was needed following a number of issues involving quit rent arrears for registered development strata schemes in the city. Federal Territories Minister Khalid Abdul Samad said payment through the parcel rent system would be more transparent as the owner would not have to pay quit rent to management committees, MC and joint management bodies, JMBs, but directly to the Federal Territories Land and Mines Office.
So yang saya nak tegaskan ialah ini bukan cukai baru, ianya menggantikan cukai tanah. So orang bila dah bayar cukai strata ni dia tak payah bayar cukai tanah. So sama ada pihak JMB nak ambil kira, nak kurangkan maintenance fee ke apa ke tu terpulang pada JMB dan MC masing-masing lah. Ya, ataupun ada juga yang saya difahamkan JMB dan MC dia kutip cukai tanah secara khusus. Iaitu maknanya dia buat yang maintenance fee tapi tiap-tiap tahun bila nak bayar cukai tanah dia akan buat kutipan untuk cukai tanah secara berasingan. Tu terpulanglah pada JMB dan MC untuk memikirkan dan membincang bersama.
He added that the calculation formula under the parcel rent system was based on the total area of the parcel, including the owned accessory parcel, parcel utilisation category for residential, business or industry, and whether it was leasehold or freehold. However, the owners of strata residential property, such as the People's Housing Project, PPR, especially the B40 group, would enjoy a fixed rate, irrespective of parcel size, at 15 ringgit per year for leasehold owners and 20 ringgit per year for freehold title holders. Based on current records at the Federal Territories Land and Mines Office, about 446 strata development schemes out of 3,214, or almost 15% in Kuala Lumpur, have quit rent arrears. Implementation of the parcel rent system is seen as a correctional mechanism and to rationalise taxation mechanism to a more systematic, transparent and fair strata development. Malaysia will continue with criminal charges against Goldman Sachs over the 1MDB scandal, despite media reports that the investment bank is trying to reach an out-of-court settlement with the United States' Department of Justice. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said Malaysia has no information on the negotiations and will continue to pursue the return of $7.5 billion from Goldman Sachs.
Pihak kerajaan Malaysia tidak tahu tentang laporan ini kerana kita tidak ada apa-apa maklumat mereka nak buat penyelesaian dengan bayaran 1.5 hingga 2 bilion US dollar kepada Amerika Syarikat. Yang bagi pihak Malaysia kita akan teruskan tindakan jenayah yang kita ambil ke atas Goldman Sachs. Dan saya telah berhubung dengan pihak pegawai negara dan beliau menyatakan bahawa kes ini dijangka dibicarakan pada pertengahan tahun depan.
Lim said this in a press conference after announcing the Finance Ministry's inaugural Putrajaya Lift, or Literacy in Financial Technology Festival 2019, on Thursday. Bloomberg had previously reported that Goldman Sachs could end up paying less than $2 billion to resolve an investigation over its role in raising money for 1MDB. Previously, Prime Minister Tun Dr M had said that the compensation offered by Goldman Sachs to Malaysia at more than $1 billion was too small, and Malaysia will be asking for the full $7.5 billion. Meanwhile, the Finance Minister said the government will stick to its initial 4.8% gross domestic product GDP growth target for 2020, despite the World Bank having revised its forecast to 4.5%.
We will stick to our target, and it will depend on our growth performance, economic growth performance for 2019. So I'm sure if we maintain our growth target of 4.7% for 2019, likely will maintain our 4.8% target. If that target is not achieved, then of course then we may need to have a look at it again. But at the moment, I think we are still on track.
The World Bank has revised Malaysia's GDP growth forecast for 2020 to 4.5% from its earlier prediction of 4.6%. This was due to weaker than anticipated investment and export growth in the third quarter of 2019. In its Malaysia Economic Monitor 2019, it said that subdued trade prospects and increased uncertainty have weighed on business confidence and investment intentions. The Kuala Lumpur High Court was on Thursday shown cheques totalling 1 million ringgit issued by Profound Radiant Sdn Bhd to former Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi. Maybank Bank Officer Harriet Muhammad Arbe confirmed this when questioned about the cheques issued in 2017 and 2018. Under cross-examination by Datuk Seri Zahid's lawyer, Hisham Tehpotek, Harriet said the two cheques worth 300,000 ringgit and 700,000 ringgit were for charity. When asked to read out the note at the back of a 1 million ringgit cheque from Profound Radiance dated January 3, 2018, Harriet said it stated political funds to TPM to be paid to law firm Lewis & Co. Harriet was testifying as the 26th prosecution witness in Datuk Seri Zahid's trial involving 47 charges of criminal breach of trust, CBT, corruption and money laundering involving millions of ringgit of Yayasan Akal Budi funds. Datuk Seri Zahid was alleged to have accepted bribes from 3 companies, namely Mastoro Kenny IT Consultant and Services, Datasonic Group Berhad and Profound Radiant Sdn Bhd, as an inducement for him in his capacity as then Home Minister to help the companies obtain MyEG projects and to be appointed operator of migrant visa one-stop centres in Pakistan and Nepal. The trial continues before Judge Colin Lawrence Sakera in February next year. Datuk Seri Ahmad Hamzah of Barisan Nasional remains as Jasin MP after the federal court dismissed an appeal by his opponent, Datuk Seri Khairuddin Abu Hassan. The unanimous decision was made by a 5-man bench led by Chief Justice Tan Sri Tengku Maimun Tuan Mat. Tan Sri Tengku Maimun said that while the Apex Court agreed, there were some instances of non-compliance. The appellant had failed to prove that such non-compliance had affected the outcome of the polls for the seat in the 14th general election. The court also ordered Datuk Seri Khairuddin to pay costs of 30,000 ringgit to Datuk Seri Ahmad as the first respondent and 50,000 ringgit to Jasin Parliamentary Seat Returning Officer Zamrud Yahya and the Election Commission as the second and third respondents. In the May 2018 general election, Datuk Seri Khairuddin lost to Datuk Seri Ahmad by a 219-vote majority in a 3-cornered fight. After the break, 3 nabbed for growing ganja worth 1.2 million ringgit in condo. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Still on Nightline. The number of flood evacuees being housed at a relief centre in Silagon Hall rose to 443 from 157 families as at 7 p.m, compared to 438 from 156 families in the morning. Sabah Civil Defence Force said in a statement that more than 20 villages in Beaufort and Membakut were affected by floods which occurred since Tuesday. The villages include Kampung Bambangan, Kampung Sinoko, Kampung Poring and Kampung Baitam Laut. As at 6 p.m, the level of Sungai Padas was at the normal point of 6.98 metres, while Sungai Membakut measured at 6.19 metres above the warning level. Police have arrested 2 men and a woman aged between 24 and 32 for growing ganja in a luxury condo during a raid in Mont Kiara, Kuala Lumpur on Monday. The total seizure by authorities during the raid, which included the ganja plants, amounted to about 1.2 million ringgit. It was learned that the trio, one of them a foreigner, had been growing the ganja plants, each measuring up to 1.2 metres in height hydroponically.
Kita telah merampas daun ganja sebanyak 2.6 kilogram, pokok ganja yang dianggarkan dalam 3 ke 4 kaki tingginya sebanyak 53 pokok dan benih pokok ganja sebanyak 48 biji.
It was believed that the suspects started their operation 6 months ago based on the size of the plants. Police also seized a Toyota Vios worth 45,000 ringgit. The suspects did not have any previous criminal records, but one of them tested positive for drugs. They have been remanded for 6 days from Tuesday for investigations under the Dangerous Drugs Act for cannabis cultivation and drug trafficking. Meanwhile, police also successfully crippled a syndicate using courier services to smuggle drugs, with the seizure of drugs worth more than 2.2 million ringgit in Pulau Pinang and Selangor. In a raid in Bukit Tambun, Seberang Perai Selatan on Tuesday, Datuk Muhammad Khalil said police seized shabu weighing 17.5 kilograms, 23,606 ecstasy pills and over 1 kilogram of MDMA. Police also arrested a 46-year-old local man and seized a Modenas D400 motorcycle worth 12,000 ringgit in the raid at 1:30 p.m.
Sekarang ni mereka telah mengambil pendekatan bila dia tahu sekarang ni fasiliti dekat airport kita dah ambil tindakan, drug mules pun kita dah ambil tindakan, we are going after them. So now courier is another way that diorang nak skip.
The operation was a follow-up from a previous raid carried out on November 21st, in which 10 plastic packages containing 10 kilograms of shabu, believed to be shipped to Sabah, were seized in Petaling Jaya. The suspect was remanded until Tuesday for further investigation for drug trafficking. The corruption trial of Baling MP Abdul Aziz Abdul Rahim and his brother Abdul Latif will commence on March 16th next year at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court. The UMNO Supreme Council member faces 3 charges of accepting bribes totalling 5.2 million ringgit in connection with road projects in Perak and Kedah, and 9 counts of money laundering involving nearly 140 million ringgit, while his brother Abdul Latif, 61, stands accused of 2 charges of abetting Abdul Aziz, 52, in committing the offences. Sessions Court Judge Azura Alwi set 13 days from March 16th to 20th, April 1st to 3rd, May 18th to 20th and June 29th and 30th next year for the trial during the mention of the case on Thursday. In Perak, 2 sisters were burnt to death when their house at Sungai Betul Bawah, Tanjung Piandang, Kuala Kurau, caught fire early Thursday morning. Both victims were identified as Aisha Din, aged 80, and her 56-year-old sister Ida, a person with a disability. The 2 deceased, whose bodies were more than 70% burned, were discovered near the main door of the house. The cause of the fire is still being investigated. Over in Pahang, a magistrate was charged in the Kuantan Sessions Court on Thursday with 8 counts of soliciting and accepting bribes totaling 295,000 ringgit. 38-year-old Muhammad Amin Shahul Hamid, however, pleaded not guilty and claimed trial after the charges were read to him before Judge Muhammad Ghazali Muhammad Taib. The court set bail at 25,000 ringgit in one shorty for the charges and also ordered the accused to surrender his passport to the court. January 15th next year was fixed for mention. Coming up right after this break, Britons head to polls in election dominated by Brexit. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We move on to the foreign front. Voting is underway in the United Kingdom's snap general election, with millions expected to deliver their verdict on the Brexit crisis engulfing British politics. Thursday's ballot will shape how or whether the UK will finally exit the European Union after months of parliamentary deadlock over how to execute the result of its 2016 referendum on membership of the bloc. The vote brings to an end a febrile campaign period during which Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative Party and Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party have offered starkly different visions for resolving the impasse and rebuilding the UK after a decade of austerity. Johnson wants to action a swift exit from the EU, while Corbyn is committed to holding a second referendum over the issue. Polls opened at 7 a.m. and closed at 10 p.m. local time, with final results expected by early Friday morning. More than 45 million voters are registered to take part, but harsh weather and a general sense of wariness brought on by this being the 3rd election since 2015 may hamper turnout. Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives moved closer on Wednesday to impeaching President Donald Trump as the key House committee began debating formal articles of impeachment that are expected to be brought to the House floor next week. The House Judiciary Committee was meeting to consider the 2 articles which accuse Trump of abusing his power by trying to force Ukraine to investigate political rival Joe Biden and of obstructing Congress when lawmakers tried to look into the matter.
If the president can first abuse his power and then stonewall all congressional requests for information, Congress cannot fulfill its duty to act as a check and balance against the executive, and the president becomes a dictator.
The committee's top Republican, Doug Collins, however, accused Democrats of being predisposed towards impeachment and argued that the evidence did not support it. Trump, meanwhile, has denied wrongdoing and condemned the impeachment inquiry as a hoax. The committee is expected to approve the charges sometime on Thursday, and the full Democratic-led House is likely to follow suit next week, making Trump the third president in U.S. history to be impeached. New Zealand recovery teams are planning a risky mission to retrieve remains from the still seething White Island volcano as pressure from distraught victims' families mounted. Despite volcanologists' warnings that the chances of another significant eruption in the next 24 hours had risen to 50 to 60%, police said they have approved a plan to move in on Friday. With the help of drone flights and helicopter pilots who were on the island immediately after the eruption, authorities believe they know the location of some of the human remains. The number of people believed to have died in Monday's disaster now stands at 16. That includes 8 people thought to be still on White Island. Looks like that wraps up Nightline this time around.